What's going on, guys? This is Kaisho. Welcome back. So we are back with another video. On this video, we are going to cover OCG metagame tier list in Philippines. So we are going to cover the post-ROTA metagame. So we now have seen the implication of ROTA or the Reach of the Abyss in our metagame. So we are going to cover each decks in every tier here. We do have S, A, B, C, and D tiers here. So ROTA format is very exciting. Lots of metagame shifts, trends, and also downtrends as well into the scene. So without further ado, let's start. So moving on first, we do have Ancient Gear. So this is what we call Tenpai 2.0. Many people have acclaimed that this deck is the second variant of Tenpai Dragon. And I couldn't blame them because this is also works like Tenpai Dragon. Just go second, hope for OTK, and deal massive amount of damages. So yeah, the goal is to go second, break the boards, and also OTK easily. So what makes this deck strong because it got a lot of support from the previous sets already, 3 sets already that have gotten Ancient Gear support, and paired with Fowaros and Dominus Impulse, it made the deck more powerful going second. So yeah, on the D tier we do have Ancient Gear. Next we do have Live Twin, Sprite, Finsmith. So this is what people tend to make when they have bought the Tactical Try structure deck of Live Twin and they don't know what to do with the deck, and they have thought that ways to make the deck stronger and relevant or viable. So by mixing Finsmith, it makes the deck more resilient and explosive with the combos from the Fiend monsters of Live Twin going into the Finsmith line of play. It's very mechanically astounding and also very consistent as well, considering that you always have 2 cards to set up your play with the Live Twin and Sprite as well. So yeah, very efficient deck, just not that powerful enough to compete with the other Finsmith decks like Cubel Finsmith and Chimera Finsmith into the middle, no. So yeah, moving on, we do have Whitewoods. So Whitewoods, many people have thought that this deck will eventually tear the meta apart, but we have been proven wrong, including me, because I thought this deck will be even higher on this tier list. But even though they have gotten new support as time passes by, I think it's not enough. The deck feels incomplete, no, in a sense that there are cards that could be possibly be more even impactful to support this archetype, but it's not really the time to tell because the Whitewoods lore is not ending yet. We are still going to see a lot of sinful spoils are cards in fewer sets after this. So yeah, I think this deck will eventually get better once they have gotten the correct support, and also people have adjusted the deck with the Azamina cards to make it more resilient. Next, we do have Gimmick Puppet. So, Gimmick Puppet should be even higher in this tier list if many people have tried to play this deck in our country, but sadly, I think people are not really uh, fantasize about the Gimmick Puppet. They tend to, yeah, put away the FTK gimmicky line of plays, and they would just resort into something Tenpai Dragon and voice this voice much more linear and much more conventional. So yeah, I think Gimmick Puppet still very strong into the meta game, way to FTK the opponent, and also very consistent. If your opponent cannot hand trap you in your choke points, I think is relatively easy win for you. So yeah, moving on, we do have Salamangreat. So the AE or Asian English structure deck of Salamangreat really paves way towards the success of this deck. Many people have bought those structure decks because they want to play Asian English format, and that results towards the many usage of Salamangreat all over the Philippines. And I think Salamangreat is really strong in a sense that is really capitalizing on the support of Fire Nation from the Promethean, of course, and lots of way to OTK the opponent, and also put up a very desirable board with Roar or Rage on their back row, with the Bailings on the graveyard, and also Raging Phoenix on the board. So yeah, it's very proficient, and I just don't think that it should be higher on this tier list. Anything above D tier is a stretch. So yeah, they are probably sitting on the top of D tier. Next, we do have Ritual Beast. So Ritual Beast, very popular deck into the Philippines. Not only the core is very cheap, I think many people have been very successful with the deck with the recent conclusion of WCQ Asia Finals with Rod Alan, our PH rep, topping top 8 finish on that tournament, and it's really astounding, and many people have hope for the best for Ritual Beast, and they're now picking up the deck, and many people have trying to innovate the deck with the MSS engine and other stuff into the deck like Floodgate variant and also Tech Cards variant of Ritual Beast. So yeah, probably they will sit on C tier, but yeah, we will see because this deck is really good and very gaseous as well. Lots of explosiveness and also resiliency. Next, we do have Runic. So, Runic, a very comfort deck of most people in the Philippines because we are known for playing stun, control, back row decks because Philippines in a country is not that rich and we are a third world country. So, yeah, people are having budget constraints. So, yeah, people try to pick up a deck just safe into the metagame, far from ban list, and very strong in a local metagame. So, Runic is one of those decks. So I think Runic as a stun deck is really horrendous. It's really annoying to play against Runic, but it gets the job done, no? To be honest, let's be honest. Runic still gets the job done. No matter what happens, no matter what people tell you about playing this deck, I think you still get wins from here and there using Runic. So yeah, very stable deck into the meta. Next would be Pendulum Magician. So the trend with this Magician are now going back towards the standard Magician without the Melodious or other Pendulum cards into the mix, no? They have reverted back towards the standard build to play around Droll effectively. I have said that on my previous video as well. But yeah, I think it's the major trend for the Magician right now to be able to put up a very strong board going first, one of the most obnoxious board into the metagame right now. But sadly, they will be halted with Maxi, Droll, Nibiru, and such, no? So next would be Centurion. So this deck is very exciting into our metagame scene because this deck should be even higher if the core is pretty much more accessible or cheap, no? So yeah, I think Centurion is really strong right now. Very spacious main deck. You have rooms for hand traps, tech cards, and floodgates. So you could definitely fit in your main deck towards the environment that you are playing. So it's very flexible, very versatile, and also kinda the best one of the mid-range decks into the format right now, no? We could definitely tell that Mementotlan and Voices Voice are really strong, but also Centurion is up there. They can probably contest these decks if many people will invest on Centurion. Next would be Unchained Finsmith. So Unchained, a very strong deck in TCG as well. I think most people in Philippines have been watching too many TCG SK videos and they kinda adapt the philosophy of TCG in here because the OCG content is scarce and not that really plentiful in Asia. Especially the contents are in Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and yeah, Mandarin of course. So Filipinos like us cannot really understand those words and languages. So we try to fix ourselves and just study what's available on YouTube. So yeah, the TCG content and also the TCG way of deck building are very much adapted here. So Unchained is definitely a deck that is very promising in TCG. So many people have also hope that it will transcend into the OCG, but sadly it's not. The Maxi is very terrible against the deck, and you have no ways to play around Maxi effectively. Unlike decks like Runic, Voices Voice, Tenpai, they could probably just let the opponent draw one or two cards, no? But in Unchained is very different. That's why it is very halted by Maxi. But the upside is it is very strong, explosive, can put up a very powerful board, and also can pretty much go toe to toe with other decks like Snake Eyes and Yubel, no, with so much gas and resources on their hand. They could probably trade against those decks, also with floating effects on the graveyard. So yeah, very minuscule damages towards the Maxi in contrast of the success that you are going to find when you are going to pair against the best decks out there, no? Moving on towards the B tier, you do have Rescue Ace Swinsmith. So this is very odd in our country. If you're playing a Finsmith deck and also a Fire deck right now, why not play Fire King, no? Or Snake Eyes? I think Rescue Ace is the deck that gets the shorter end of the stick, no? Because they are trying to play Finsmith and Fire deck as well. But if they want to just win and compete at the top level, they would just opt to play Snake Eyes Finsmith. So that's the reason why Rescue Ace Finsmith is not that really represented heavily. But this deck can still definitely top tournaments and high stake events. But the problem is it is less patronized and played by many people. Next, we do have Fire King, Snake Eyes, Sinful Spoils, of course. This deck also adapted as a Mina engine and probably one of the better decks into the format and one of the most explosive and more resilient deck in the metagame. The problem are only in the deck itself. It plays bricks from Fire King cards. The other stuff like the Phoenix and the Grunix and other Fire King cards are not really good cards in a sense that you don't really need those cards to be able to put up your Finsmith or your Snake Eyes line of play. But yeah, those can be very handy on tight situations, very crucial way of dodging effects and also playing through boards, no? So that's where it shines, but sadly, it's not that as consistent as the Snake Eyes counterpart of this deck. Next would be Chimera Finsmith. So, Philippines is a country that has probably one of the best Chimera Finsmith players in Asia because people in other country like Indonesia, Thailand, and Singapore, they didn't really hope and also believe into Chimera and Finsmith variant because they would just rather play Yubel, Finsmith, or Snake Eyes, probably Tenpai, But Philippines is a different story. Many people in our country like Joshua Coriano and Anan Kipit and Renz Bongko, those are very acclaimed players of Chimera. They're really strong and definitely knows the deck in and out and they could probably play around this format effectively because they know how to navigate the deck. No matter what the situation is, they could probably play the deck and get wins because I think mastery wise, I think Chimera is one of the best decks that could reward you if you master the deck and played it thoroughly. I think Chimera is definitely one of the best decks to be able to reward you in that manner. Next would be Yubel Finsmith, Fall from Grace, because I think it is now lesser powerful than the Snake Eyes Finsmith Azamina stuff. But yeah, it is lesser consistent. Let's be honest, it's not that as consistent as the Snake Eyes Azamina right now. But on the flip side, I think Yubel is a deck that is heavily patronized by many people in our country because they have picked up the deck pre-ROTA and they thought that they will probably have the best deck available in coming formats, 2 or 3 formats now. I didn't even thought that Snake Eyes Azamina Finsmith would probably edge out this deck and Tenpai. Goodness, I think Yubel Finsmith have really invested too much in so much money cards like Phantom of Yubel and also the Finsmith Engraver, of course. So this deck is very expensive. That's why less people are inclined towards playing this deck. They would just opt to play Voiceless Mementotlan or Tenpai Dragon. The budget variants are pretty much available to us and probably even better right now post Rota. Going towards the 8th year, we do have Mementotlan. So this deck is literally hot right now into the metagame, a bunch of local metagames and tournaments and pub tournaments and also 16-man locals and yeah, other unofficial tournaments are heavily topped by Mementotlan all over the country and I think Mementotlan as a deck is very dicey. You don't really get to know what is the correct way to beat the deck. It has choke points and probably crucial points to attack the deck or play through the deck. But in a literal sense, I think there's a lot of variance and variety to play in Mementotlan, and I think those surprise factor and elements that puts up together very vast ways of playing the Mementotlan is what makes Memetotlan very scary, when you don't know really how to navigate towards the interruptions of Memetotlan, when you don't know how the Memetotlan card works. I think you will be put in a very miserable position. I have also experienced that myself when I have played against Mementotlan players on Edo Pro. I don't know what to do against the deck in first, and that is very terrifying, and I have been really traumatized on how explosive this deck can be. On first hand, you think that this deck is not that really explosive and not that strong, but when you've experienced it firsthand against good players, I think you will definitely see what I am saying. But the downside of Memetotlan is it's not that really consistent. Some weeks they look very bad, and some weeks they look the best deck out of the format. So yeah, it's really dicey. Looking back, I think it's very dicey to acclaim that Memetotlan is one of the top tier decks, if not the best, in this format. So yeah, moving on, we do have Voices Voice. So Voices Voice has no business on A tier on my own preference, but sadly it's not the case for the Philippines metagame. Bunch of tournaments are top with Voices Voice because people have invested too much on low diviners, and of course this deck used to be a top tier, A tier, S tier, even S tier deck before, and I think it lost traction because other decks got much more explosive, and also hand traps are not the best for voice right now. Magnamoot, DD Crow, and other banishing effects on the graveyard are not the best for voice. That's why it tends to struggle into the shape of meta right now due to those utility cards and hand traps. But not only that, the other decks are really explosive and can definitely eat the deck alive. And yeah, Voice, very budget, very resilient. Doesn't take too much brain power to play this deck. The thing that you should be worried of, because Voice doesn't have too much interruptions into the board, so you are going to nitpick your calls and play more carefully towards your interruptions and negations of Guardian. So yeah, moving on, we do have Snake Eyes Finsmith as a Mina. So this deck is probably the best deck with explosiveness wise and resiliency wise. I think it is probably even better than 10 by Dragon. The only reason why 10 by Dragon is higher on this tier list is because people are playing 10 by Dragon. You definitely see people playing Snake Eyes Smith, but it doesn't even come close towards the representation and usage of 10 by Dragon. It's really far from Grace. I think is really 90 to 10 or 80 to 20, is really wide open, because Snake Eyes Smith is a deck that definitely needs money to build, and it's not really the best suit for most people in a third world country. So probably people like me, other people that doesn't have too much money on their bank account, they will probably pick Tenpai. But in terms of topping results and also other stuff like explosiveness and sealing resiliency, it definitely goes towards the Snake Eyes Finsmith. But the reality is Tenpai Dragon is on the S tier. It is probably the best deck in Philippines, and it got even more better because of the Fuaros and the Dominus Impulse. Those two definitely bolstered the prowess of Tenpai Dragon going second. And you do have 24, 23 hand traps into the deck, and you just need one Chundra, one Pydra, one Sangen Kaimen to TK the deck. But yeah, on hindsight, it's very effective and very strong. But sometimes when you don't draw those hand traps, you could probably struggle around those decks like Hubel Finsmith, Snake Eyes Finsmith, Rescue Ace, and even Chimera Finsmith. So yeah, it definitely dwells down on your draw variance and also your ability and skill to choke the opponent on their correct moments, and also play more effectively using the trade-off of your hand traps, and also navigating towards the boards of the meta right now using your Pydra, Chundra, and your one-off field spell. So yeah, on the S tier we do have Tenpai Dragon. So that sums up our Philippines OCG metagame tier list post-ROTA, first week of August. If you found this video informative and helpful, please subscribe into my YouTube channel. It definitely motivates me a lot to keep making this kind of content. So once again, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.